if our actions are simply extensions of thoughts, what actions are we going to take?
Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Good morning. Can everybody see me, hear me?
Good morning.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Hi, Lisa. Good morning. So I'm going to share my screen because we only have 30 minutes and I want to maximize the time that you're here. So this is a pretty vast topic. We're going to discover the process that will unleash your success. So what is this process? Well, since we only have 30 minutes, we're going to cover basically one key element. For any of you that are familiar with Carl Jung's work, we'll get into who he was and sort of the mark that he left for us in the world. And this work, if you're into self-development, thinking positive, cognitive behavioral therapies, there's lots of books and methods and programs out there. And for me, this Carl Jung's model was much deeper than anything I had read or experienced before. So you might experience that as well. Definitely remain skeptical. I don't think I have to tell you that. There's nothing that I'm going to say, or there's nothing that Carl Jung in his work created that with the expectation that you're supposed to accept this as truth, right? It's only true if you can apply it to your own life. So I would ask you, as I go through this material, think about circumstances currently or in the past where this is true or this feels true for you. And because we always know with real estate trainings, with any kind of training, knowledge is a wonderful thing, right? Knowledge is great. But if we don't have a practical way to apply the knowledge, then it's kind of just useless, right? So we always want to ask questions, kind of wrestle with it in our mind, etc. And our teachers used to tell us to put our thinking caps on. So in this case, I'm going to ask you to take your thinking cap off a little bit. The reason for that, this work, there's a deeper part of ourselves that will sort of resonate with this information, even if we're hearing it for the first time. Because according to Jung's model, our mind was really innately built for this process that we're going to talk about. But if we don't have this information, if we don't know how to do this, or we don't understand how our psyche functions, then we're not going to be able to use it, right? So as you sort of assimilate what's, the information that I'm sharing, your mind is going to naturally try to define it and put it in categories and make it make sense. And that's not going to be possible at this stage. So you'll understand more about what I mean as we go along. All right. Next slide. Okay, so what are we doing here in the next 30 minutes? We're going to start to peel back the answer to this question. What is causing my results? And you can think of this, what is causing my results in my personal life, my relationships, my real estate business, or really any kind of category with my wealth. What's causing our results? And it might not be what we think. So this I'll go through really quickly. These are just my credentials. I found Jung I found his work in 2011. So I've been studying his model intensely for that long. And I started off with very small courses, just bite size, and I just loved it so much. And it was, for me, it was the first thing that worked. That's the only way I know how to talk about it. It just worked. And so in 2015, I ended up taking a full 1 year class. It was a live classes, online classes. We had practicum hours, tests, reading material, et cetera. So that was a full year. And then again, I loved it so much. I took the mastery level class in 2017. Again, it's the same model. It's just we keep going deeper. And this process, you'll find, never expires. You don't study Jung's work and understand it and apply it, and then one day say, okay, I'm done. And you'll see over time, it really stays with us as long as we're here. We can use this, and it will continue working at deeper and deeper levels. So what is Jungian psychology, right? For those of you who have maybe gone to school, had some psychology classes or training, Jung was an apprentice under Freud about 100 years ago. And Freud coined this term called the subconscious. Okay. And by Freud's definition, this part of our mind, this part of our psyche, is unseen to us. We have no access to it. It's blocked off. And he described it as this repository of parts of the rejected self. So we won't be able to cover the ego in this class, but the ego makes decisions for us when we're very, very young about what characteristics and traits are going to help us survive in the world, and which traits do we want to get rid of. And so, putting it simply, all those rejected parts of the self or dissociated self, parts of ourselves that we've denied or ignored, are all in this repository. And when Jung was working with Freud, he expanded on this idea of the unconscious, on this theory, and it was a theory at the time, that this part of our mind is not just this trash bin, it's alive, and it's very rich with, information that's constantly being or attempting to communicate with us, but not in the traditional way, not like in a psychic way, not in like a channeling or anything like that. It's really just a part of our mind that we don't see by design, but also the ego likes to ignore it because the ego is just very loud and sort of directs our focus and demands our focus. So one of the most important foundational truths that I found about Jung's work is that he really describes so perfectly that human beings are really, inherently flawed. We're never going to be perfect, no matter how hard we try. And that all of us have the potential to be evil or to be kind, to be a narcissist or to be humble, etc. Right? And so based on, again, the ego's decisions about how we should act to fit in with our family, and then later in school with our peers, and then in society, we prop up the ideas that the ego thinks will help us survive and push down the other elements. And so we're kind of walking around split. So Jung's entire process, it's called individuation. It has to do with rebalancing this psyche and really becoming whole, becoming all of who we are, instead of just, propping up certain parts and denying others. So Jung really talks about really specific techniques that he used in a therapeutic setting to access these parts of the mind that are, again, by design, unavailable to us. So we're going to touch on one, but this really requires multiple classes. Okay, so if I were to condense Jung's entire body of work into one quote, it would be straight from his mouth. Until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will think it is fate. So let's get into that and break that down. All right. So again, I kind of want to relate to you guys listening the best that how it was for me when I started to learn this, that the mind is really the most creative, powerful creative tool that we have. And it is responsible for creating the results that we consider good and the results we consider bad. And it's very subjective, right? And it's based on perception, because what I consider to be a great result, you might consider to be a terrible result. So again, it's that judgment. So let's just, as we go through this, let's think of some examples of external circumstances that are causing your results in real estate, right? So I just listed a few. It's a down market. There's not enough inventory, too much competition. I'm using the wrong marketing strategy. That's a great one. And then fill in, the blanks with your own thoughts. What other sort of external events, people, circumstances are causing your results that you're getting? And it's pretty radical, but Jung says that the mind is the cause. So it's not the cause in terms of that we're deliberately creating results we don't want, obviously, or that we should blame ourselves. It's more of about how the mind perceives that is creating the result. So we're going to get into that. So as I mentioned, it's very counterintuitive to think that our mind is causing the results, right? Because we've been taught from school, from our family, from society, from our culture, that everything is causing us to feel the people out there, those mean people and those events that we can't control. Those are the reason that I feel inadequate. Those are the reason I feel unsuccessful. Those are the reasons I don't have the money that I was, had in my goals. So it's very counterintuitive to turn that focus from the outward external events inward. Jung says we create with the mind and we receive through the action. I didn't understand this until many years into studying this process. So I'm trying to give you a cheat sheet because some of us get really into the starting to work with our mind and working with Jung's tools. And I'm telling you, miracles will happen in your life when you start doing this work. And we visualize and we start working with our dreams and we start doing shadow work, some of those things. But then some of us just sit on the couch and say, okay, well, I'm working with my mind. So where are my results? Right? No, we have to take the action. We know from physics that an action always will create a reaction, right? So if we don't get out of bed all day, that's an action. So we have to take the action to receive the fruits of the seeds that we've planted with the mind. So this is already, huge, because this understanding is really showing us that we don't have to wait for the external circumstances to change. We don't need the market to shift. We don't need that mean person or people to change and be nicer to us so that we can feel good. We don't need anything external to change in order for us to create something new, to create a different result than the one we've been getting. So our task, at least initially, is to refocus our mind inward. So we're going to start disciplining our mind and directing our mind and shaping our mind, rather than letting the external events cause us to be in a constant state of reacting, right? So the foundation of our life, again, this is according to Jung's model. And I will mention Jung's model was a theory when he started it, and he was a wild man. I mean, he really was, his peers and the other PhDs at the time thought he was crazy. But it turns out that it's now considered fact, his model, his theories. And when I say fact, I mean, it hasn't been proven, it hasn't been disproven yet, right? So there are most recent studies in neuroscience and neurophysics that confirm what Jung has been saying for 100 years, although he's not with us anymore. So the foundation is this unconscious idea that we have about ourselves and about the external world. Is the world a good place? Is it the place where we can really reap the rewards of our potential? Or is it a dangerous, scary place where everybody's, we have to be protecting ourselves? So whatever our unconscious assumptions are, our thoughts, our daily thoughts all day are arising from that assumption or those assumptions. And so, as an example, if we're faced with an obstacle, which we are guaranteed to be, right? Is our thought like, oh, I always figure it out? I mean, it's a little daunting, but, I'll figure it out. Or do we come from a place more of like, it's just not going to work for me. It never works for me. I see it works for John and Susie, but I just don't have that level of success. That's just not me. I'm just not the person who has that. Right? So if our actions are simply extensions of thoughts, what actions are we going to take? Right? And there's another layer to this as well. So we have the unconscious assumption. I'll just use a random example. My unconscious idea, which I don't know that this is unconscious, but it is, and it's operating. It's like the background software, computer program running. I am not deserving of that kind of wealth that I want. I mean, there's some people that get it, sure, but I'm just not that person, right? So my thoughts are going to arise from this unconscious idea. My actions are going to follow in line with those thoughts, and then I'm going to get a result. So I'll let you guess, what kind of result am I going to get when I'm taking an action with a mind of fear, a mind of scarcity, right? And then that result, when it doesn't work for me, it reinforces that underlying condition. Now we're getting a little bit into conditioning here, but it's important because conditioning is conscious and unconscious. So we don't want to ignore it. So you can see how this creates sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy and cycle that's hard to break. So results, whatever they are, the good results, the bad results, right? And I'm putting that in quotes, they always match the mind that created them. So one of the ways Jung teaches us to see glimpses of what's in our unconscious mind is just look at the result. If we intend a certain result, whether that be a number of homes we're going to sell this year, a monetary number, a lifestyle, and we don't have that result that we intended, and we haven't been getting it for 10 years or 15 years or maybe longer, something in our unconscious mind is operating in this, and to drive the mind that's creating the result. Again, not intentionally, not to blame ourselves. So I want you to think about the actions you take, because our society is all about actions. Think about the energy that's going into your action that's yielding the result. So the energy will match the result. So when you make a cold call to a for sale by owner or another agent, and you are relaxed and confident, and how's that conversation going to go? Right? Versus like if we're like, they're going to hang up on me, then our mind is in fear and we will likely get a result that matches it. So this is why just thinking positive thoughts alone it's great. I don't want to say it's not effective, because it can be effective. And a lot of people say it works for them, but it doesn't address the root of the thought, right? So that's why it's a little bit limited as far as just thinking positive thoughts. I used to say it's like putting a smiley face sticker on an empty gas gauge. It's like, it's nice, but it doesn't change the reality of the situation. So, okay, we're not going to go too deep into this. The language of the unconscious as it communicates to us is not words. So when you have those thoughts that go through your head 24/7, right? Hamster wheel, doesn't stop. That's not the unconscious. That's your conscious mind 100% of the time. So there's not even a chance. But the unconscious does communicate through raw, what Jung called psychological energy. So the emotion that arises in us, we call it all kinds of things: anxiety, anger, excitement, joy. But it's what it is in its raw form is it's just psychological energy. And that's unconscious communicating. So the ego is kind of trained to ignore, like, right, when we feel something uncomfortable, we're like, instinctively, we pick up the phone and call somebody, or we go for a run, or we turn the TV on, or we check social media. So we really want to start paying attention to this energy, because it's telling us something really important. Symbols is another class, but it is absolutely fascinating. That basically, in a word, dreams are showing us raw unconscious content. So if we learn how to work with our dreams and what the symbols are, we can really, really see what is unconscious in us. Visualizations are how we practice directing the mind in a particular direction. And when we visualize, we usually get into a relaxed state before we visualize, right? So as we do that process, we are getting glimpses of symbols from the unconscious. So we have to pay attention. If you do any visualization, jot down the symbols that you kind of see that you didn't expect. Waking life, that's like advanced. All right. So I want to leave time for questions, but it's like I just gave you just like so much information. It's a lot. It's a lot. So what do we do? Well, the way to start, the way I was trained to start is we practice observing our mind instead of getting wrapped up in it, right? We just watch it. It's called meta consciousness. Meta just means above. So you're watching your thoughts. You're watching the energy that's coming up when you get a result, when you go on a listing appointment and they go with somebody else. What's that? What's the energy that's coming up when you get that result that you consider bad, if you consider that bad, right? And what about when a deal closes, one of your best deals closed, you get that hit. It's like a drug, right? Same thing. You want to observe like, ooh, that's interesting. Like what is that energy? What is that about? Right. And when you start just asking that question, you'll start getting insights. So we want to embrace, we touched on this, we want to embrace that energy, which Jung calls integration. So it's like when that yucky feeling comes up and we're just like, oh, I don't want to feel that. We want to practice just acknowledging it and allowing it to be there. Nothing more, just allowing it to be there. And, yeah, that's really it. And what this does is profound. It sounds like such a simple thing, but emotions condition our behavior more strongly and powerfully than anything else. So if you can allow fear to arise in you and let it be there and take the action anyway, you will change your life. You will change your results. Reverse engineering, we talked about looking at the results as feedback, right? So when we get a result, no matter what the judgment is, we're going to ask, what is this showing me about my unconscious mind? What is this? What do I need to see about this? And again, once we start asking, the insights will start coming. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen share and just check if there are any questions. You can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself. How am I doing on time? Oh, wow, 3 minutes. All right, no questions. You guys are just, your minds are blown.
I'm just going to say, I understand everything you're saying, Lesley. It's very hard to put into practice.
It is very hard.
It's very hard to put into practice. So we can't accomplish it. But if you're mindful about it, you can all start doing it in baby steps.
Baby steps. This is not easy.
No.
This is not easy. Jung talked about it takes a tremendous amount, what he called moral courage, to face our shadow, which is synonymous with our unconscious mind. I think we have a question. Emotions. Oh, I said emotions? I'm not sure when I said that. Thank you, Soledad. Did you want to ask a question about emotions or did I misspeak? All right. So I think that is going to cover, for today. I can show you just some quick takeaways since we have like 1 minute. Oh, wait, somebody just asked a question. Let me see. Can you repeat what you said about emotions? Okay. Yes. So important thing about understanding emotions is the reason why we are afraid of our emotions, first of all, is very archaic. Emotion overrides reason, right? Emotion overrides the logical, rational mind. That's why when we get angry or it's that fight or flight, right? Fear and anger, that helped us survive. 200,000 years ago, if there was a mountain lion coming towards your village, you better run. And so you need that. So it's very innate. But today, we don't really deal with mountain lions, depending on where we are in the country. So our fear and our anger is coming from existing in society, working, being among people, dealing with everyday life. But the emotion is just as strong as if we were being attacked by a mountain lion. It's not rational, but it's there for a reason. And so when we understand that it's just raw psychological energy, then we can practice. Again, this is not going to be automatic. I promise. It's really hard, but it's worth it. We practice allowing that emotion to just be there. And we don't sort of shove it away or repress it or suppress it or otherwise distract ourselves from it. We just allow it to be there. Does that answer your question? Or did you want me to go more on that? Yes. Okay, good. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. I love this topic. I selfishly love talking about it because it keeps it top of mind for me every day. So if you guys are interested in doing a part 2, part 3, part 4, let us know. I'm happy to do it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.